Okay, right on time. Welcome everyone. It's such a nice crowd to have. I think I see some familiar faces. Welcome, Nihat. Today's topic is a topic very dear to me. It's about emotions. Some of you might be familiar with that. I think this is one of the topics that is so underrated in educational research in general and in engineering education in particular. And we look at, well, we have had a lot of themes lately, AI, feedback, assessments, other things that we like. And at the same time, there are hidden processes. I also like to call it hidden in plain sight, where we don't look just at the process, but at the performance and the things that happen within a team and that are not easily visible. So I'm looking forward to hearing Nihat's presentation today, and the team, welcome.
So thank you very much for this opportunity. First, I would like to actually make some advertisement about BLearn and EPFL Learn Center. We are here and we completed this project thanks to them. And also today, Vlad will be with us, and he will be also presenting I guess, the main part. Because in the beginning, when we actually submitted this proposal to get funding, we actually aimed to focus on academic emotions. We collected data. After collecting data, we saw something different. And then Roland said, hey, I guess there is something very interesting, but we need someone to focus on this data. Then Vlad joined us. He's a social psychologist. He works on masculinities in educational context, let's say. Then he joined us, and he actually brought a new perspective in the data. Today, I will present the data which I already presented in CEFI conference, and I'm very proud to say that we were nominated for the best research paper, but just because of someone, we couldn't get it. No, it's just a joke. So today, we have two questions to focus. The first question would be, what academic emotions computer science students at EPFL experience during teamwork? This is the first part of the presentation. And the second part is, how does emotions interact with social identities, and how these interactions impact their learning experiences? So, as you see, I will present the first part, and then Vlad will be with us. The team for this project, we collaborated with professors from CIVIFED and FFHS, Egon Wellen, Marina Fiori, and Jan Favre. And of course, Vlad is here, and the handsome guy with us, volunteer me. And the project already finished, and we submitted an article to Journal of Engineering Education. The first revision part already is done, and we wish we will get an accepted paper in a couple of weeks, as promised. Yeah. Here, emotions, a very, very quick summary. Emotions have different components. The cognitive part is how to evaluate the process or something. Second part is subjective experience, which means that now the emotions I feel are completely different the emotions that you are feeling right now. Why? Because we are in the same atmosphere, in the same room, we have same experiences right now, but I appraise this situation a little bit exciting and I have a little bit anxiety. But for you, the level, the intensity, the experiencing of this emotion will be different. The other part is bodily tense. For example, my heart is beating right now a little bit faster, and I feel some palm sweating here, but I'm trying to actually focus and trying to manage them. The other part is motivation. Because I think it's very important right now to have you and the teachers from EPFL and the others. And I think I need to present these slides or this data in a way that to affect you. And this also motivates me to react. And the other part is facial expression. As you smile faces here or some neutral faces, and these faces also have some impacts on me. So those are the components of emotions. And of course, culture, language, and other social things. I'm not an expert here, so rather talk about them. And another thing I want to say, emotion can also be categorized by their arousal and valence. I mean, you can feel, for example, anger, which is a negatively balanced emotion. And when it comes to stimulating process, it has a higher arousal level. And for example, we can classify emotions based on this valence and arousal levels, and we can put them in the axis. And now academic emotions. So what are they? Basically, academic emotions, the emotions that we experience during teaching and learning process. For example, achievement emotions are emotions that when we think we are going to succeed or we are going to fail. For example, topic emotions. How do you feel when you see a topic related to quantum physics or linear algebra? What is your first feeling when you see that on the board? For example, and those emotions are topic emotions. For example, how do you feel when you think or when you see climate change on the board or sustainability? The emotions you feel about that topic can be, of course, completely different from mine, but it's topic emotion. And the other one is social emotions. For example, we are working in a team and the interactions with the teachers, the interactions with the team members, there can actually stimulate some emotions or can the students in that groups can feel different emotions based on their backgrounds. And the last one is epistemic emotions, and we have an expert here as well, Alexandra. She works on epistemic emotions, but these emotions are basically related to the new knowledge and the knowledge we have. So, for example, when you learn something new and when you don't when you cannot explain the new knowledge or new information with your existing knowledge or schemas, you started to feel something. You say, hey, what the hell is this? Why I cannot explain this? And you can feel, for example, anxiety, you can feel frustration. But after this process, when you solve the problem, when you change your schemas, when you change your information, or when you replace the things, then when you solve the problem, you feel, yes, it worked. So those 4 emotions are academic emotions. So after background, what we did? 2 years ago, we recruited 34 students at EPFL, and we created the teams. They were computer science students, and we gave them a project. The project topic was to develop a language learning application. And they met 6 weeks during the semester, and they worked on this process to develop language learning application. But we created the teams based on their background. For example, we put at least 1 master students in the teams, and at least 1 linguistically different students in the teams. And then we told them, could you please work on this process? And during the process, after each meeting, they had to fill out the questionnaire that we shared with them online. And we had 3 questions. What did you feel today during the meeting? What emotions did you experience? And what were or was the intensity of these emotions? and what was or were the main reasons of these emotions you experienced. And then we, week by week, first for each student, then for each team, and for the whole participants, we actually created this figures and this process to put the data. And for example, here, first week, 3 members of team 5 times, for example, expressed excited and 4 times interested. And we classified them as topic, achievement, social, or epistemic emotions. And as you see here, for example, many different emotions during the process, and then we classified them whether they are negatively balanced or positive balanced emotions. As you see here, something happened during, let's say, in the middle of the project work. And here is the whole emotional trajectory for the teams. In the beginning, as you see, we have quite positive emotions, but between week 2 and week 4, something happened, and students expressed more negatively balanced emotions. And after week 4, again, we see positive emotions present. And the results. Each week, each student expressed different emotions. And each student, even in the same team member, with the same interactions, they expressed different emotions, which is subjective feeling. And the journey of academic emotions started with the topic emotions. First week, they said, we really like this idea to develop a language learning application. It's really nice to code the process. Yeah, we will do our best. But in the middle of the project, they had a lot of conflict. They had a lot of frustration. And there was an interplay between social emotion and epistemic emotion. For example, a student said, I already don't know how to solve this coding debugging process. And meanwhile, the person has been asking thousands of questions. I just turned to him and said, please give me time. So this frustration epistemically also impacted their social interactions and emotions. So the result shows there is an emotional turbulence during the team projects, and we need to consider them. So in terms of implications for us, for the teachers who have students working in the teams, in the first phase, maybe at the start of the semester of the team project, it's very important to build trust and connections between team members, because our students didn't know each other, and we didn't do anything for team building process. They were completely free to do what they wanted to do. But for us, for example, from our experiences and from students' interviews and also the data, it shows that they need to know each other in the beginning. And for example, creating some asset maps, knowing each other, and for example, some icebreakers or emotion mapping could help. And during the turbulence, maybe in the middle of the project work, it's important to share real case analysis. What I mean here, the teams could meet, they can discuss the conflicts, and they can discuss on the possible solutions. This can help them at least to figure out the problems and to offer different solutions. And the other is, from emotional part, an emotional radar could work. Not just for them, but also for teachers. Teachers can see their emotional experiences during the process. And when it's needed, teachers can help them to manage this process or to regulate the process. And in the final stage, we need to give them the opportunity to be proud with, to share their results, to share their artifact, to show them, hey, we had a lot of problems, but we handled with them, and now this is our products. So also, to thinking about the process, I think, and from the research experiences and from our experiences with the participants, reflective journals or reflective writing process could help them. For example, some of the participants said, in the beginning, it was a little bit weird to us to talk about emotions, but now when I see this process for myself and when I think on them, I see my process with these things. And for example, we interviewed with them twice in the beginning and at the end of the project. And many students said, you know, when you interviewed with me for the first time and when you asked the questions about emotions, I said, yeah, what the hell is doing here? But after that process for 5-6 weeks, I reflected on them, and now I see how I experienced them and how they can impact me. So this is the application part, and final thoughts is here. To be honest, before starting this project, I didn't have any idea about Tuckman model. But after seeing this graph, this figure, and discussing with you and these experiences, it's very similar to the team development, group development process of Tuckman model. And here in the model are emotions. So thank you very much.
So before Nihat was talking about emotions, and here I want to add a few layers to this, just emotions. So here we will be talking about interactions between emotions, identities, and also the learning outcomes. So we will add a little bit of few layers to the talk. Before, just a quick reminder, so we had 34 students, computer sciences, we had 2 binary genders mostly, no non-binary people, different academic levels and cultural backgrounds, different languages. So at the beginning of the project and at the end of the project, they were interviewed by Nihat and 2 other colleagues in different languages, mostly in English, but also in French and German, to accommodate their language preferences. And among other questions, they were also explicitly asked different questions on emotional experiences. How do you feel? Did you feel excluded? Are you satisfied with interactions? So all sort of questions to cover their teamwork. And then we transcribed all the interviews and analyzed the data through reflexive thematic analysis. We had certain theoretical lenses that we wanted to analyze with the data, but primarily we engaged in the inductive coding. So just a bit refocus on what emotions are. So Nihat was talking about the emotions mostly as something that is private, that is experienced within the students, that they are not focusing on what is happening between the students. Here I want to refocus it a little bit. So the social aspect of emotions, this is also something that is happening within us. With social emotions, with the experience of emotions, students actually position themselves, how they relate to each other in the team group work. To give you a concrete example, so for example, after the talk, Nihat will probably ask me, how is it going? And one of the things he could express might be anger, for example. He could say that, Vlad, I had so many expectations that you would communicate everything clearly, that everything will be so simple, and you just complicated it. So he will be experiencing anger, meaning that I did not meet his expectations. So he will be positioning himself towards me in a certain extent. I'm not saying that this is going to happen. This is likely to happen, but just to give a concrete example. So, and when we're talking about different various of emotions, we used a model how people, students can position themselves towards each other on different dimensions, including social status, including safety. Do I trust others? And warmth. Do I feel that we are belonging to the group that where we're coming from? The emotions experiences are not happening in the vacuum. So I just want to highlight an article on the PFL website that was published. Do not mind the typo. This is not me, this is on the website. So the story behind is that editors published on the website the article of one of the students, female students, engaging in sports, right? Very admirable story. But the title the editor chose, I love a battle, and the fact that there is a winner and a loser, and the picture. So to me, this picture is telling because this is not just anything. You could run this story with a lot of different lenses and you highlight multiple things, but the fact that this is exactly the title, this is exactly the picture, is telling, it's communicating what is prevalence, what is the norm at the PFL. So the norm here is that we are engaging in some sort of battle. Although we are not talking about sports, but we are talking about education. And somehow the website, the story is promoting that we are in a fight with somebody. The students are aware of that. This is from the interviews. So the participants said, we are always used here at the PFL. Like even if something is not graded or whatever, we just have to do it well anyway. So students are well aware of the culture that is kind of the imposed norms that are flowing around the PFL. There is a sad result a little bit to that, at some point, they will feel excluded, that they are not belonging to a team, that they are not with somebody going through these experiences, but as one of the participants said, I felt there was no team to be included in, right? Like everyone was in their own direction, so yeah, I felt excluded, I think. And then also, it is so common that students don't even see the point of analyzing it. So everybody just does it. So everybody knows it. Why? But this is exactly the reason why, because part of the focusing on the social interactions is actually trying to make visible what is usually invisible or what is usually the default. So when we were trying to analyze the data and to make sense of the data, we had a conceptual model. It looks a lot, but I will walk through it, or you can ask Roland after that, because he created this picture. So I already said that there is a culture of a PFL. We call it masculinities contest culture because when we are talking about the culture, the components of the culture, they are closely tied with what it means to be a man. Because PFL and engineering education in general is very men-dominated. So a lot of norms or a lot of meanings that are usually attached to men, to men's bodies, they are also present in engineering education and engineering. So when we are talking that we are engaging in battle, we should not show weakness. We should work through our tears. This is a specific culture, and students are aware of that. Then within this culture, the social experiences are happening. So students are engaging in projects. It's a social context where students are working, and they are trying to relate to each other in this context. Who is saying what, who is engaging in what kind of emotions they are expressing. Am I allowed to speak? Am I leading? Are we collaborating? And so on. And this is also expressed through emotions, through anger, through empathy, through warmness, and so on. But since we are talking about the culture and the context within which this is happening, these experiences of emotions are also either challenging or reinforcing the culture. So for example, just by somebody being frustrated that the needs are unmet, it could be also an expression of dominance. And hence, we are interpreting it as a masculinity practice, which is then reinforcing the culture. And the culture says that, well, you should be clearly setting expectations. You should be clearly be better than others if you want to succeed. And the cycle repeats. Where is the learning, you will ask? Well, the learning is the thing that is an outcome. So whenever this is happening, it also affects the students' satisfaction with learning, whether they are feeling that they are enjoying the learning or whether they are feeling that, well, there was no team to be included in, or they feel that they could have learned more, but something was hindering the learning. So this was the model that informed our analysis. And what we found is exactly that there are two sets of practices that students engaged in. One is what we call hegemonic masculinities. And it consists of three different themes or sub-themes here. So one is competitive individualism that we talked about, that in order to succeed, you have to overperform the others. So this, in terms of the emotions, it could be expressed as I'm proud that I outperformed others, and I'm proud that I'm on the top of the others. In terms of show no weakness, it could be that students are, in general, they are repressing, they are suppressing their feelings, that they think that emotions, they do not belong to the educational environments and they should not show any kind of bad emotions, so to say. Or put the work first. So in general, instead of focusing what kind of relationships I can gain from this teamwork or from the universities, they are coming just for technical skills or focusing exclusively on gaining the hard knowledge. In opposition to that, or in relation to that, there were also counter-hegemonic practices, so the practices that actually challenged the culture. For example, students expressed frustration when they felt that the task distribution within the teams was not fair, so that they felt that somebody was performing more, somebody was performing less. Collaboration over competition, so they tried to engage others, they tried to pay attention to them, what they're experiencing, how I can incorporate their input in the work, how can I invite their input into the project, and in general emotional support. So you can call it empathy, for example. So in general, being attentive to others, what they're experiencing, and if they are experiencing distress, for example, in relation to coding, then offering some help to them. So when we're talking about their emotional experiences in relation to hegemonic masculinities, what we found that students clearly articulated that it reduced their learning satisfaction. So they said that they could have learned more, they could have enjoyed the learning more, but in these kind of settings, when there was a competition between each others, when they expressed that emotions were not welcomed in the team project, so they expressed reduced learning satisfaction, they expressed that there was more stress, and they regretted that there was no team, no clear team. While when we were analyzing the counter-hegemonic practices, it was a bit in the opposite direction. So students in general expressed that they had more fun, they had more joy in learning within the team projects, and they also highlighted that they had built stronger interpersonal relationships with others, and they enjoyed doing that. Just a little bit of examples here. So one of the quotes, yes, maybe a little bit of disappointment because I somehow assumed that we would finish it all the day, but it's still not perfect or still far from perfect. So students said that in relation to the certain expectations that somebody from in the team did not meet them, and they kind of expected a little bit more, but they were disappointed that they did not experience, the expectations were not met. Or, for example, when we asked them about is it okay to make a mistake, then they answered, I would feel bad if I made a mistake, and I don't think I would ask for help. I would feel shame, annoyed, anger, guilt, embarrassment. So the first thing is that they think that doing a mistake is something bad, which is kind of opposed to what learning is for, right? But also just to highlight, so shame, annoyed, anger, guilt, embarrassment. So you can clearly see that sometimes students do not differentiate a lot between the various emotions. Another quote, because last year I did a project with 5 people, which was actually pretty much that situation during the whole thing. So it just wasn't as good as I hoped it would be. I know we could have done better if they just listened to me a little bit more. So here it's also an expression, an articulation that student is not happy with how communication was happening in the team. It's not about the assertion of dominance that they should have listened, I know better, but it's in relation to the question of what they lacked in the team, and they lacked more communication and more interactions within the team. And the last one, I saw him sometimes thinking emotion. Maybe when you are trying to figure something out, it definitely triggered my interest in understanding if everything is okay with him, where he is at his own task. So here we see that a student was articulating that they are actually paying attention to others, they are looking at others in order to understand where they are, and if they can help them, or if they need any kind of help, or they need to be satisfied. So if I have to summarize the results, then I would say that first of all, engineering teams are just not the technical spaces, but they are also social, emotional, cultural spaces where a lot of things are happening. Students both engage in hegemonic or counter-hegemonic practices, so it's not just that they are either challenging or reinforcing the current system at the university, but at certain points they are challenging, at certain points they are reinforcing, so it's a mix. Another one is that emotional expressions are not neutral. We need to think about it, especially in relation to social interactions, in terms of how they are positioning themselves towards each other. So emotions, they are informative, and even without explicitly asking of something, we can actually gain a lot of knowledge just by asking what kind of emotions they are experiencing. And also the teamwork is not existing in the vacuum. This is also where students are learning how to behave, what kind of emotions are allowed, what is the right emotion, what is the wrong emotion, what can I express, what I cannot express. And if I have to formulate one takeaway, is that engineering education is in a very deep need of a certain space for processing these emotions and reflecting upon them. So what was clear in their interviews that, first of all, students are not always aware what emotions they are experiencing. So they don't know specific words for discrete emotions. They maybe say that I'm feeling good or I'm feeling bad. But if you want to differentiate, if we want them to differentiate emotions, they do not have currently skills to do that. And these interviews, as Jessica pointed out, for example, it was kind of an intervention because it made students also think about, okay, what kind of emotions I'm experiencing, why? So that's why it could be a structured emotional reflection in the coursework, for example, or teachers and professors, they could model and also encourage different kind of practices that could potentially point out to a different set of expectations from the students, because right now there is nothing about emotions, there is nothing about collaboration in broad sense in the engineering education. And how can you expect students to learn that if you do not have a space or you don't have any kind of specific instructions about that? So I'm going to stop here. Thank you very much.
Yes, advertisement time. This research project was funded by Bill. Center for Learning Science. We are very happy. Thank you.